What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the two-time award-winning, I get to say that now, two-time award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show, 2020 award winner by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association in the podcasting news category, and 2018 winner in the innovation category given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, once a month, I host conversations for fathers and dads that are co-sponsored by Canada's national fatherhood organization, Dad Central, and Dove Men Care. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations, and this is the place for epic conversations. And I'm looking forward to another epic conversation tonight. One of the many other things I do during the month is something called Cuisine Noir Magazine, Behind the Business, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And I have the pleasure of always co-hosting it with Sheree Williams, publisher of Cuisine Noir Magazine. And it's a in-depth conversations with people who have been featured in that wonderful magazine, Cuisine Noir Magazine. And tonight we have another special guest that we're going to bring on right now, but I'm going to bring on both ladies. What is up, Sheree? How you doing?
Hello, Dr. Vibe.
How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. It's getting closer to that Christmas. Well, Christmas season is it, but how many stores are open? That's another conversation. Yeah. But I think we'll get into something like that tonight in regards to retail and especially in the wine industry. But I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce our special guests.
Yeah. So tonight we're joined by Miss Benita Johnson out of Richmond, Virginia. Dear friend that I've known over the years and just enjoyed our camaraderie around wine, around being Aquarius. And just you know, a great friend, and she's doing so many great things. And definitely, I think more people need to hear her story. I mean, she was one that I know of, one of the first to own a Black-owned wine store. She, you know, we're going to go on and on. She created a wonderful event called the Exclusive Blacklist that happens every February. 2021 probably, unfortunately, had to take a little hiatus. But at that event, she really brings Black-owned wine brands to the center stage. She released her own offering, Exclusive White. And then one of her latest projects, she is one of the co-founders of the RVA Black Farmers Market. So she's doing some big things over in Virginia.
So I already have a first question. Benita, do you sleep?
No. No. Well, tonight I'm scheduled to sleep in about 2 hours.
Okay.
More about 2 hours.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let Sheree start off the conversation. I will join in. So Sheree, I hand it to you first. Go for it.
So Benita, one of the things that we just talked about with all of this, you know, wine, not wine, but just the reckoning over the summer and then all of the attention that was given to, you know, Black-owned brands and vintners, and definitely excited for all of that, but definitely want to make sure that people were aware of your story because you were there in 2005 when you opened Grapes and Barley, even before we came on the scene in 2009. And we knew that we wanted to showcase Blacks in wine, but you had already, you know, gone into that wine industry. So share a little bit about how that happened, that you decided to go into the wine industry.
Okay, so back then, I was spending a lot of time going to different wineries, Virginia especially, but also I made wine and winery visits as a part of my travel experiences, wherever we went. And so what I did not see at home it wasn't about not having a Black person or any people of color in the wine industry in my city. It was more about not having these shops in more working class communities. Mm-hmm. And so we, at the time, my husband and I, we decided that we wanted to go into that industry. So we opened 2 shops, one in November of 2005 and another in February of 2006 called Grapes and Barley. And so I ended up being the first African-American woman in my city to own a brick and mortar wine store.
Awesome.
So Benita, what were you doing before the wine industry? And did anyone say, girl, are you crazy?
Everybody said, girl, are you crazy? So, I was an accountant. And so
Hold on. What? Like, talk about dichotomies. Like, okay.
Well, you know what? So growing up, my father was an entrepreneur. He had he was a brick mason. And so, you know, as a child, I'm nosy, right? So I wanted to learn how to do his books and like, what you doing now? You know, show me. And so it just became something that I naturally did. And so, you know, in high school, I took accounting and I was winning some of the FBLA, you know, programs that they would have. And so it was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do, you know? And so, but nobody told me that that wasn't a people job. And I like to talk, you know, and when you're doing numbers.
I would have never guessed that. No, I would have never guessed.
I know, right? Don't let the shy look fool you. So, you know, being in accounting and in finance, usually it's a lonely place. It's you in a cubicle with a computer. And so, you know, I didn't want to do that anymore. And I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. I just knew I was going to quit that job. Mm-hmm. And so I love retail, you know, so my husband wasn't hearing me, you know, saying I'm going back to work at Macy's. So, you know, so it's like you had to figure out something else.
Ouch.
So we opened the wine shops.
Well, you know, you and I have a number of things in common, and one just sticks out already. When I first started university, the first semester I took accounting, and I quit after the first semester accounting.
So that was the last class that I took to get my master's, and I sort of made it known to my teacher that, you know what, this is my last class, so I can work that hint.
So this is not what you were trying to do, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
My last one.
So whose idea was it first to get into the wine industry? Yourself or your husband's?
I think it was kind of a joint idea. The way that we approached it, our approaches were different. But since I was the one who quit my job and I was the person who was there daily, of course, it went the way that I wanted it to go. So, so, you know, we sold wine and beer, but I was more interested in helping people become more comfortable, like through education. You know, there are a lot of people, you know, who look like us, especially back then, who you were not comfortable, you know, with wine, you know, so we were choosing the same things all the time. And so I wanted to have that experience for people where you can come in and you could taste something. And I could teach you, you know, a little bit of what I knew and, you know, have some real wine experiences. So even in the store, you know, we would do like once a month, we would bring in some type of some person. It could be like a personal chef who may prepare a dish right there in the store and teach us, you know, not only how to prepare that dish, but how to pair that with a wine, you know, a wine in my shop. So it's more about, it wasn't just about selling wine. It was about creating the wine experience.
Benita, go back to that moment, because so many people are on the fence of they want to do something different, but they get caught up on obligations, on not being able to take that risk. So tell us about the day you quit your job to say, I'm doing something different.
Well, I think it's a little bit different. And I could get in trouble for saying this, but I think men and women are a little bit different. I think men are, you know, they're less fearful, you know, of jumping out there and taking that risk. And so sometimes as women, you know, we look at, you know, we have kids, we got to cover the benefits, we got to do all of these other things. And so we don't jump out. I was raised by my dad, so who taught me never to tell myself no. And so
love that.
Right. And so when I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore, I wanted to quit my job that day. My husband asked that I wait 90 days. So I just said, I will not be working here on day 91. And I think it was like around 87, 88 days that I actually left.
Why do I feel the calendar date was circled?
Yes, I counted.
Wow. Now, when you started, who was out there to mentor you, to show you the ropes, to sort of be your guide?
Nobody. We just kind of jumped up there. I didn't know anything about wine other than, I liked it. I will go to wine shops and, as I said, wineries and taste wine. I mean, I had worked in retail, like part-time jobs because I liked retail.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done that, and I had been a retail manager, like straight out of college. So I kind of understood, the retail model and things I needed to do. But in terms of wine, I knew nothing. And the distributors would have to come in and they would have to spend so much time with me. You couldn't just line up 8, 9, or 10 bottles and say, taste this. And, it's $8.66 a bottle. Nope, you got to teach me. And so because, a lot of the distributors, they were selling to restaurants. And so restaurants they won't see them until after lunch sometime. So they had all morning to spend with me. So most mornings by 11 o'clock, I probably had tasted 25 wines.
Oh,
wow. So I think this is very fascinating that you basically knew nothing about it.
Nothing.
Now, but did you at least have a business plan?
So that's what they teach in MBA school, and I learned it.
Yeah.
But no, not really. I mean, I don't want to say we didn't have a business plan. We had something loosely written, that this is how it's going to be. But, I just didn't. All right. So one thing I learned quickly is marketing is important and advertising is important. So back when I got into the business, there was the largest retail grocer in my area did not sell wine and beer. And so the initial idea was like, hey, if we plant next to those, we're golden, right? You got a cute name, Grapes and Barley on the marquee, above your store in the shopping center. People gonna flock in here. Man, we were there 2.5 years and people were like, what's Grapes and Barley? Because it did not necessarily say wine and beer. So that was our cute idea that other people didn't necessarily get. Okay. And so, and even, people were used to going to that grocery store and leaving that shopping center. So we had to kind of be parking lot pimps and go out there and hand out flyers and drag you into the store, to come in. And so we had to be real creative. Right. And, to get people in the store. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
Very, very key. Very key.
Sheree?
Yeah. So tell us, what are some lessons learned? So there's a big accomplishment because one, you opened the shop. So that's something to be commended. Looking back, what would besides marketing, what else, is there anything else that you would do differently?
I wouldn't have done two together. Okay. We basically signed both of those leases at the same time. And so we got one landlord to give us 4 or 5 months to open because I had to open this one first. Mm-hmm. So I realized that initially, although I had a great staff, sometimes people wanted me to do it. Like if you came in my store, there would be people who asked for me. Mm-hmm. I can only be one place at one time. Right. So, the store where I wasn't was the store that suffered that day. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't do that. One thing I'm glad I did, I paid attention when I was getting my MBA. I don't know which class, but they talked about anchor clauses in the lease. And so I did have anchor clauses so that when that grocer chain I mentioned, when they left, because that was the draw, if they were leaving, I could get out of my lease. Nice. And so I was happy because during the time I had those stores, that grocer was sold. Okay. And it changed the whole landscape of wine buying in Richmond.
Cool.
And just to piggyback on what Sheree has been asking you about the early days, can you reflect back to those early days? I saw your head. Do you want us to reflect back to those early days?
So back then, my kids were young and, we're a young family. I think when we started, our kids were 12, 6 and 4. Oh. And so they were a big part.
How you doing this, Superwoman?
Hey, they lived in the back of the store. So we had, there was a PlayStation back there, a TV, my daughter was 12, so she wasn't as into that. So, I would just say, I would give her a copy of a Wine Spectator magazine, open up a pretty picture and say, write a story on this, So, something good came out of it. She published her first book at 14 or 15, I think, so, there were things coming out of it, but it was definitely a juggling, a balancing act. So something else, another life lesson learned is that we can't do and we shouldn't do everything. We want to sometimes when we have a business, try and do every little aspect of the business, but we don't do all things well. So it's important to do what we do well, and pay somebody to do the other stuff. So.
Wow. So let's talk about your transition from the stores, but you continue on with wine. So tell us how you continued on leading up to the Exclusive Blacklist.
So when we got out of the stores in 2009, that's when that grocer sold. So it was a good time to kind of get out. I kind of stayed in. I was working with a catering company and a restaurant. And so kind of working in their wine program and helping them do some other things business-wise. So in 2011, I met my business partner in the Vine Wine Club. And he recognized me from Grapes and Barley. So he had a whiteboard in his house and he wrote wine shop. And I was like, no way. I said, we ain't doing that. I ain't doing that with you. He never erased it off the whiteboard. And so I think around 13, he paid somebody to do a business plan. And that business plan, Dr. Vibe, I still haven't seen it, but he paid somebody to do it. And so in 14, he had twisted my arm enough to say, okay, we're going to go back, but we're going to do this, not a brick and mortar. We're going to try it through online, and so again, we create this website and you think, throw it up there, give it a .com and everybody's going to buy your wine and you're going to be shipping all day. Didn't happen quite that way. And so, but, we had to remain pivotal. And, you take what works and you say you take that, you throw away some other things and you keep reinventing yourself until you find the right formula. And so what we ended up doing is having a subscription membership to our club. And so with those people who are members, we do wine classes / tastings twice a month.
I need to jump in here for a few reasons. So first of all, I need to just shout out some people who are watching on Facebook. Dr. Tachi, who hosts Mediascope, which is one of the livest live streams about media, tech, and pop culture. It's on every Wednesday at 5 p.m. on Instagram Live. And at 6 p.m. she's on Facebook Live, WJMS Radio. I know also LinkedIn Live and Periscope. So she's on, and also a longtime gentleman who I've not heard from in a bit, Melvin Lars from Louisiana. Welcome, welcome. Now I'm coming back to Benita. Benita, question for you. In regards to with all this stuff that's going on in the early days, how did you keep it all going?
Well, first of all, although it was hard work, it was fun. And so, when you enjoy what you do, it almost doesn't seem like work. So going into those stores every day, I used to drop my kids off at school. I'm in the store, and here comes my reps, then here comes my staff, and here comes my customers. So it's like, everybody, it was like family, so it wasn't like it was work. So keeping it all going, it was almost like it was an inconvenience when I had to take my kids to Taekwondo because, I like being in the shops. But sometimes we had to go home and I had to help with homework. So
I also want to add too, were you the only Black doing what you were doing back then?
At that time,
And then also, was it easy to market to non-Blacks?
So very interesting story. There was a elderly lady, a white lady. She came in my store one day and she was looking for something for her son. And, I spent quite a bit of time with her going through some products. And so at the end of our transaction, she said, I appreciate you. She said, I go to some of these other shops and they talk to me like I'm stupid. She said, you took time with me. You explained this so that I could understand it, and I'm coming back. And so not really. And I went to the school while I did my undergraduate degree, is a large PWI, and I was very active in the Alumni Association there. And I did a lot of events for them. I was the logistics chair for 13 or 14 years during their events. And so they were frequent customers. So, when they were looking for a small space to have an event, a lot of times they use my shops to host their fundraising events. So
nice. Sheree?
Awesome. Yeah, just want to start to transition into, tell us about the Exclusive Blacklist.
So we started the Vine Wine Club in 2014. And at the same time, I started a podcast with my friend Teresina. It was called Off the Vine with Benita and Teresina. And on one of the conversations, we had Brother Marcus Johnson, and we were talking about his flow brands, and we were talking about music because I had been a fan of his musically. And so while we were having that conversation, he was talking about, he was out trying to get a large store to carry his brand. And I was just talking about how the industry is set up where we have to work very, very hard to get folks to carry our brand, yet there is a distributor in the middle who doesn't always work as hard as we do, but they get paid, Yep. So I was saying that I wanted to have this event, and I said it right, our podcast was live, and I said, I'm going to do this event in February. I think this was November. I said, we're going to do an event in February. And my partner, George, was kind of looking at me like, really? We're going to do this event in February where we're going to introduce these wines made by African Americans, because a lot of people still don't know that we're making great wines. We're going to do this event and allow our customers, the patrons, the people who come to the event, become the ambassadors. So what we ask them to do is every time, even if it's to the point where people think you're crazy, every time you go to the restaurant, your favorite restaurants or store, you say, hey, do you have Flow? Do you have Shoe Crazy? Do you have Masson Noir? Keep asking for it, because if they saw it at my event, because I made it a point to carry the ones that are available in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So if little small wine shop, online, can get these wines, so can these others. And so that way, that would hopefully encourage other store owners or restaurant owners to carry wines that we want.
Right.
Okay, I guess I'm the uneducated one because I don't know who Marcus Johnson is, but obviously both of you ladies know, and what Dr. Tachi knows who. So who is Marcus Johnson? Because I need to get educated, because you're an educator.
I think Marcus, did he introduce me to you, Sheree? Is that how we got connected?
So I met Marcus through someone here named Jennifer Jones.
Yeah, and I think he told me about you.
In 2016, did you know him before our party in DC for the museum?
Yeah, I did.
Marcus, okay. So then maybe it was before then, but I'm not sure how the introduction went.
Anyway, but Marcus, Dr. Vibe, is an international jazz pianist.
Okay.
And he's also he's an educator, motivational speaker, but he has a wine brand called Flow. FLO stands for the love of.
Okay. Thank you, educator. I'm being a good student.
Plug-in, we do have an article of him online as well.
Excellent. Well, I'm speaking that one day we'll get him on.
He'll do it.
No problem. Continue on, Sheree. You're on a good flow right now, so keep it going.
Absolutely. So, Benita, just tell me, you've seen a lot over these past, 15 years? Mm-hmm. Just talk about what you're seeing in terms of the transition. So what I say is, even when we started in 2009, we focused a lot on Black winemakers, and there were some wine professionals, but not to the extent that there are today, which is absolutely amazing, right? So
Yeah.
you're really seeing everyone come forward. You're seeing now a big push in diversity in wine. So tell me, what did you see then, which we know, and then what are you seeing now in terms of Blacks' involvement in the industry? And we know that the industry itself has a long way to go, one, of recognizing those in the industry, and then recognizing Black and Brown consumers.
Yes, that's true. So when I first started, of course, there wasn't social media as we know it didn't exist. And so, we had the magazines, and so we didn't see ourselves in those, at all. So, we had no idea of what was going on or what we were doing individually
Right.
in the wine space, especially if you lived in Richmond, Virginia. Maybe I don't know what y'all knew in Cali or what people knew in New York, but we just didn't know, what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in 2006, I came out to Napa, and that's when I met Mr. Brown of Brown Estates. I had no idea. He was out there. I hadn't heard of them. I just happened to be at a wine festival. It was me, and it was 6 of us who came out. And, we were the only people of color at the festival.
Wow.
And so we looked way over in 2006 until we looked over in the corner and we saw brown people pouring wine. And so I kind of just ventured over, because, you know how we do. So I'm going over to see my family. And that's when I got introduced to, an African-American making good wine.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, so since, as the years, of course, now with social media and so we're starting to see each other. We have different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have groups where we can, kind of communicate, keep each other abreast of what's going on in different parts of the world. It's not just the U.S. We got folks in Europe and South America and Africa, everywhere that are doing amazing things in wine. And so now, we see the world is not flat. It's round, and we can touch each other, and we can connect, and we can learn from each other. So much has changed since 2005.
So, Benita, do you feel, compare the time that you entered in the industry to now, do you feel it is easier, the same, or more difficult for Blacks to get involved in the wine industry, wine retail industry, or in the industry per se, compared to when you got started?
I don't think it's any more difficult to get involved in the retail space. I mean, we got the same issues we always had. Money, capital, is an issue. And that was an issue then. It still is an issue now. What we, are able to do now that we can see each other, we can kind of join forces a little bit more because we know who's doing what and can kind of piggyback off of what others have done or are doing. So I'm not going to say it's easier, but definitely there's more mentorship opportunities. Like when Sheree asked earlier, who mentored me? I didn't know anybody. So I kind of entered into this space by myself. And even like when we would go to trade shows in my city, I was kind of, like, the zebra in the room of elephants, because I was treated differently, not only because I looked different, but my wine shop was in a part, both of them were in, as I said, very working class, more blue collar communities. And so, I didn't have that West End shop. My shop looked very nice. People used to always say, oh, I'm surprised that, this type of shop is in this neighborhood. But, every neighborhood deserves nice. And, I brought quality to what I thought was a great neighborhood anyway.
Wow. Now you went from wine shop, online club, event, and then now you released your wine. Tell us about that and that decision and that process.
So I just wanted to do like in our classes, and folks will come, we see people and what they like, and they kind of stick with what they know. And so like me, I started out, my first wine was, okay, so the first wine was really unique. Peach and raspberry. I'm not ashamed. And then my other first wine was like White Zinfandel. And so we kind of look at, we kind of evolve in wine, kind of like we do everything. As a baby, we start drinking milk, then we move to Kool-Aid. We get grown, we get soda, we get tea, and the tea gets less sweet. So it's kind of like an evolution. So the same thing with wine. And so we wanted, George and me wanted to introduce a wine that was like a transition from like a Moscato or something like that. And so we introduced our exclusive white, with the help of my dear friend Gwen Hurt, owner of Shoe Crazy Wine, who's a distributor. Because we had learned that one of the major challenges that we have with wine is distribution. Mm-hmm. And so she had become a distributor. And so she agreed to help me private label my baby, which is exclusive white.
Awesome. Is it mainly sold? Tell us about how people can get their hands on it.
So you can get it if you're in Virginia on my website, thevinewineclub.com. Outside of Virginia, you can get it on Gwen's site at shoecrazywine.com. And we're starting to get it in shops. So we're excited. We got it in a couple restaurants here locally. We have it in one of the markets not too far. So we're starting to get little wings.
Okay.
So I want to jump in here in regards to, because you guys are just having a good vibe here, and I've got so many conversation pieces going on in my head. I don't want to forget, and I'm forgetting while I'm listening to such a great conversation. With the when you got involved in the industry, were you, compared that time to now, are you being handled differently? Now, did you encounter any racism when you first started off in the industry? And are you still encountering any now? Because the majority of distributors are probably still, as my friend Melvin Lars would say, non-melanated. Did you experience any in the early times? Are you still experiencing any now?
In the early times, I guess the biggest thing was, wow. With distribution, it's kind of like, if you don't know, they kind of, it's like with anything. If you don't know, people will serve you anything. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was more my lack of education in the industry. I'm going to say that more than it was racism. I think they knew, little silly girl don't know nothing. We're going to sell her this. It's on sale. It's been sitting in the back of a truck, 3 years. I didn't know. And so now that I know and I understand a whole lot about the industry, I kind of set my own boundaries and guidelines of how you're going to treat me. Mm-hmm. So not so much racism. I know when we first started the Exclusive Blacklist, we got a little bit, a few people would say, don't you think that name is racist? First of all, the person who gave me the name is a good friend of ours, and he's a white marketing genius. So he gave us the name. So kick rocks on that.
All right. Shut him down. Nice.
But it is what it is. It's an event that celebrates African Americans in wine, food, and spirits. And so I'm not ashamed of that. You have French wine festivals. They ain't thinking about Black people. They drinking French stuff. Right. You have Italian. Why can't we have our own? And so you just got to sometimes just create your own lane and don't worry about what they do or think.
There you go. I got some other conversation pieces. Where did the name come from? Vine Wine. How did that come about?
So we just wanted to be called The Vine, right? And so we're thinking in 2014 that's going to be available. It wasn't. And so we went to search for the name. It's like, nope, can't have that, but here's some options. And so I called George and I was like, all right, here are the rules. Here's our options, right? And so we just picked that one. So it wasn't, it's no sexy story behind it. It was what was available.
I obviously I'm the junior when it comes to the wine industry. You two powerhouses. I'm just riding on your coattails. But for the general person out there who does not know about your industry, from a high level, what is the process of getting wine on shelf?
Oh Um, First, you have to have distribution.
Yep.
And once you have that, I mean, you just got to get in there and beg, kick, and scream sometimes for shelf space. I mean, it's highly competitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have folks coming out with wines all the time. You know, you can't beat everybody's price point, especially the big organizations that's putting out wine. So it's like, it's kind of like you just gotta fight for that space. We wanted to get into a restaurant. And so George and I went up maybe a month ago now. We took our bottle, and, I had my spill, and, we tasted and everything, and they weren't real comfortable with the price point, but, again, it is what it is.
Right.
And so I said, we'll come in, we'll do a tasting, with your patrons. And we promise this will sell, so give us a chance, we're going to do this. And so we did. And so we went up there. They had committed to one case. And so we took the case. That's it. They committed to a case. We took the case, the invoice, and then we donated 2 bottles for the tasting. And so just from that 2 hours we were there, we ended up, they're going to take the wine. I mean, the people liked it, so they were convinced. So we're going back in a couple weeks. We're taking another wine that, it's not ours, but is our friend's wine. We're taking her wine. We're going to do another tasting, because what we did in the process, we had the conversation and made them, they want their wine list to be Black. So.
Oh.
Okay.
So
okay. Is it a Black-owned establishment?
It is a Black-owned establishment, and it starts with us. If we don't Blackify our wine list, how can we expect? That's a word I just made up.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, are you trademarking that word? If you're not, I may trademark that word.
Yeah, we Blackify. We got to do our own, before we expect them to do it. So it starts with us.
Nice. One thing that I've noticed is, and you mentioned this too, in the very beginning. I know we keep going back, but there weren't, it wasn't that big in retailers, and now stores are really like building out space. I mean, Target has a whole area. I was in Grocery Outlet a couple of weeks ago, and I was looking around their wine section, and I'm like, I'm blown away. And then, Walmart is upping their wine selection. So you're really seeing these retailers dipping into this industry because they know that there's money to be made. So it's really interesting seeing the evolution of even the grocery stores when it comes to wine and their wine shops.
And it's unfortunate that change doesn't happen until a lot of times there's destruction or disorder. Mm-hmm. And so we went through so much stuff in 2020, because, COVID, we're all sitting at home paying attention, to things that, sometimes we were mad for 3 days and then we, move on to the next thing. But we focused. And so when people started, we saw all the things that we saw with the unrest. We said, okay, we're going to support each other. So they're not dumb. They're not going to miss out, on these dollars. And so they all of a sudden, when they didn't have space a year ago, they got space now.
Interesting. Interesting. It makes me reflect. A number of years ago, I watched a documentary on Costco on MSNBC, and it blew. It still makes me shake my head that Costco is the biggest retailer of wine, definitely in the United States, probably in North America, but I wouldn't doubt in the world.
Yeah, they really got that game on lock. They really do.
That is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Would you like to have your product in Costco, Benita?
Yes, call me Costco.
Too funny. So, Benita, we go from wine to vegetables.
So the vegetable thing. So I'm gonna tell you, during COVID, if COVID started out, those of us who were at home, the first couple of weeks being at home is cool, right? And then, after that, it's like, okay, I'm trying not to drink all my wine in one day. Got to find something else to do. So, I planted a little garden in my backyard, and I live, in the city, not a stone's throw from downtown. So, a little urban garden in my backyard, and they're raised gardens because I swear my house is built on top of a brick yard. You can't dig in my yard.
Okay.
So it inspired my daughter to want to do something. And I want to get Black farmers, Black growers together to kind of share, exchange, or sell our goods. And so I take no credit for founding the RVA Black Farmers Market. If you see me at the market, I always say, I only work here. This is hers. So she founded the RVA Black Farmers Market that she kicked it off in August on the day that it was raining, literally cats and dogs. I mean, we had torrential downpours, but the city was so responsive that even in the rain, most vendors were sold out in 3 hours, and we were packing up.
Well done.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's amazing. And, I enjoy just being a part of that experience with her and, watching it evolve. I mean, it started as once a month, and then the city of Richmond contacted her to do one, at the city on their property.
Wow.
So that ended up twice a month thing. And so now
that's big. That's big. When the city's asking.
Yes.
So now, we're going into Virginia winter. So, it's going to get cold for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So she's looking at, we're going to work together and develop these boxes, kind of like a subscription box that we can still get the goods out to people during these winter months and as COVID peaks.
Wow.
Impressive.
That is very impressive. And I love to see our younger generation return back to farming and not looking at it as something that is, not to be proud of,
as work.
But it's so relaxing and it's so rewarding when you see that tomato come up and you're like addicted to it because it's like see what part is going on of the tomato or the cucumber or the whatever.
I know I was giving away, like when I had basil, I had a lot of it. And so my friends would come over. I'm like, I would give them like scissors and a bag, just take what you want. Yeah. And so my son was like, you giving them that? I was like, we can't use all this basil. How much pesto am I going to make?
Wow.
So,
and I'm making pasta tonight. Forgot my basil. Darn.
I wish I had something to send. I had a ton of it, but we've had a couple of frosts so far this year. So,
wow, be Sheree.
Well, so how do you see this year wrapping up, and then some hopes for 2021?
Well, as you mentioned, the Blacklist is normally in February, and we're not going to do that this year. Mm-hmm. But we are, working on some things for the spring that are smaller events, because I don't know. I mean, we don't know where we're going to be, what we're going to be able to do. As a matter of fact, we had an event scheduled for this past Friday, but we had new mandates from the governor last weekend that we could only have gatherings of 25 people. So that event had to be canceled, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So because we don't know, we are working on some events that are, small, intimate events that is still introducing great wines, these great chefs that we have in the area. And I am a huge jazz fan, so I'm always bringing in jazz musicians as well.
What has 2020 taught you about you?
2020 has taught me that I am resilient. Mm-hmm. When COVID first started, I admit I kind of went into like a COVID depression because I am a social person and I like to be out. And, I was working and living in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I had, my house here in Richmond. And so I had that, I'm going back and forth and I'm just doing my thing. I'm grown down there because I don't have any kids. And so when I go back to Richmond, this is like my real life, right? So, so at the beginning of COVID, it kind of, it was so different. And then I'm a caregiver. My father is sick and he lives in my home. And so, all of these things at one time, it was a lot. And so I had to, get to a place where, I was like, okay, this could be the new normal, but I'm still here in the midst of it. And so, pivot, get the resources I need to help. A lot of times we as African Americans, we don't reach out, get a therapist, get a life coach, talk to whoever you need to talk to, but, get well. And then, once you're at that space, you're resilient, pivot, do something else.
Nice. Nice. Sheree?
Well, we've got in our last couple minutes, one of the things that I said, that we talked about was our special announcement that we wanted to make, which I'm very excited about. And just giving a little preview as to what we're going to be sharing next Tuesday. So speaking of, I love how you led into that, Benita, about being resilient and pivoting and just, making a way. And so, that's been one of our challenges this year with Cuisine Noir is how do we continue to do the work that we're doing and still make an impact and still grow. And so very excited that we'll be announcing our new formed media nonprofit that we'll be launching. I'll leave the name until the big announcement next week. But I'm also excited to share that we've got 2 board members here, Benita Johnson, as well as Dr. Vibe, who will be joining the board to help us really go to the next level that we want to go to. So very thankful for the both of you and the work that we're going to be doing. And it's going to be I think it's going to be awesome. So again, we'll be sharing more greater details next Tuesday. But just know that we've got some great things in store that's going to take the stories from Cuisine Noir to even, thank you, Melvin, to even higher level. So looking forward to working with both of you guys on this new project.
Fantastic. I just want to add with just 1 or 2 last comments from Benita. Benita, what advice would you give a Black individual that wanted to get into the wine industry now?
I would definitely say do it. Mm-hmm. I would also, encourage them to kind of look around and talk to people. Like right now, there's no excuse. It's somebody, who looks like you that's doing almost everything in this industry. And for the most part, we are a very congenial group, for the most part. And so you can reach out, you can touch them. Everybody's on social media, go in their DMs or whatever and talk to them. And most people I have found have been willing. Most people who've come in my inbox or whatever, I talk to everybody, and if I don't acknowledge you the first time, it's definitely, a head thing, not a heart thing. Ask me again.
Wonderful. There's somebody, a supporter of the Dr. Vibe Show, Deborah Jackman, saying, good evening. I love what I'm hearing coming from an addict gardener. My gardener saved me during this trying time. I would like to know how to duplicate what you're doing here in Ontario. So if you're comfortable, Benita, I can certainly exchange email addresses with both of you and you can continue the conversation offline if that works with you.
It works for me.
All right. No problem. Well, we are getting ready to call it evening, but what I'm going to do is if you're watching live or on the replay, I'm just putting up information about Cuisine Noir Magazine. Oh, wrong thing. That should be saying the Fine Wine Club. I got it wrong. So no problem. I am human. I make errors. All right.
That's okay.
This is the name of the company, the Vine Wine Club. And I really had some fun with this today. But the Vine Wine Club, I was on Twitter. The Vine Wine Club is on Facebook. The Vine Wine Club is on the gram.
Yes, the gram.
So if you're watching this live on the replay, all the information is there. If not, just go to the website, thevinewineclub.com. You'll get all that information there. Cuisine Noir Magazine. I'm not going to put up the website address because I made a mistake, but they're on Facebook here. They're on Twitter here.
Yes.
They're on the gram here. And the website address is
cuisinenoirmag.com, or you can do cuisinenoir.com too.
Okay. So
each other.
Forgive me for my error, Sheree.
Right.
That's all right. If you forgive me, that's all right. And then as Deborah Jackman is saying, thank you. So I'll make sure I have an exchange of your email address. Andre says, great conversation.
Hey, Andre.
So another part, it seems like, you have your own little group here that you just bringing them on. Bring them on. I would like to thank everyone who helped make this an epic conversation. Andre, Deborah, Melvin, Deborah, Dr. Tachi, and anyone else who's watched this or going to watch this on the replay. Thank you so much. Anyone who's going to listen to this on the replay. So I'll just close out here with this. My name is Dr. Vibe. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020 and 2018 award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. 2020 was given to me last week in the area of podcast and news. 2018 winner in the innovation category. If you want to catch and touch base with me, there's my website address right there, thedrvibeshow.com. As always, I end off my conversations like this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Be ready for next month. We have another special guest coming up on this wonderful conversation. And I'll close off with this. Remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. And thank you. And walk good, as we say in Jamaica. Good night, everybody.
Good night.